How you doing? Hey, question for you. Do humans ever misinterpret God's intention and will? Or do we just get it all right? We've got God all figured out and we know what he wants and what's good and what's evil. And we all agree on this stuff, of course. That's why there's no wars, no political strife on earth, and no religious strife, and no abuse of males against females and vice versa, and no poverty, no stealing, no crime. We're all very kind and loving to each other. What happened? We go back to the Garden of Eden, we know the answer. We can see that sin went in when we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then the good and the evil we each determine with our own will and desires and imaginations. So it really didn't change when the law was given to Israel on Mount Sinai, and then while they're wandering around for 40 years in disobedience after God did miraculous things to show his power and love and rescue and redemption to Israel, pulling them out of captivity in Egypt. Why are we so stubborn? Why are we so stuck and so hard to believe? Could it be because we don't understand how good God is and how much Jesus loves us? Could it be that we don't understand that Jesus really is God, that he created us, and that his intentions are good and always loving and always for our best? The beginning of Mark chapter 3 really hit me a few weeks ago, so I've been studying it, so I wanted to make this little video on it to look at this passage, the first 6 verses of Mark chapter 3, first 6 verses of Mark 3, and look at how the religious people totally misunderstood Jesus and didn't really care. They were hard of heart. They wanted to keep their power, so they even brought in a political group that had nothing to do with their religion. When the Pharisees connect with Herod Antipas's followers, who were a radical group that wanted to promote him as the leader of that area and kind of push out some of the Roman influence so they could focus on their group, which was different than Pilate and Rome's group and Israel with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. But the Pharisees and the Herodians get together in pursuit of wanting to destroy Jesus. They want to annihilate his existence from eternity. That's the words that's used in the last verse here. But Jesus' intent is very different. So let's walk through this verse at a time. Mark chapter 3, verse 1, again, so he usually does this. Jesus entered the synagogue, the place where the Jews got together and hang out, because that wasn't the temple, and this is before churches existed. So synagogue just means a gathering. And so this is an actual building where they gathered. Kind of like what we do today. We misinterpret the church as the building rather than it's the people, the body that make up the followers of Christ. So Jesus entered the synagogue, and there was a man there with a withered hand. Whatever, that doesn't really describe what that problem is. It's dysfunctional, it's diseased, it's withered and kind of like dried up, and it doesn't work. And they, the Pharisees, watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him and bring a criminal case, a criminal charge against him with their lawyers, to convict Jesus of breaking the law by healing somebody on the Sabbath. You don't do good things like that on the Sabbath. That is just naughty. Naughty, naughty, naughty. You are violating the law by doing good and healing somebody on the Sabbath. That's how hard their hearts were and their heads were, misunderstanding who God really is. And Jesus said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to the Pharisees and to everybody there, Jesus says, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good, something inherently good, or to do evil, something that has a vile, internal, evil intention. That's how nasty that word is. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm and evil? To save life, suke, the soul, to save life. Is it okay to save life or to kill it? To actually make it die? So is it lawful to do good or evil, to save the soul, the life, or to kill? And they don't answer. They're silent. And Jesus looks at them with anger. This is an internal anger that's bubbling up, that's swelling, that is turning into wrath as he looks at them. And then he's grieved. This is the only time this word is used in the New Testament. He's grieved at the hardness of their heart. He's saddened by how obtuse is one of the words in the definition. They just choose to not understand. They don't even care. That's how hard their hearts are. So is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life, the suke, or to kill? But they were silent, and Jesus looked at them with anger, grieved at the hardness of their heart. And he said, Jesus isn't standing up, he's not doing anything, he's not touching the man. He says to the man who's in the midst of them, stretch out your hand. So the man stretches out his withered up, dried hand, and it works. It becomes healed by Jesus' words. He didn't touch him. He didn't stand up. He didn't hug the guy. He didn't do anything physical. Physical work was what was not to be done on the Sabbath so that you could rest and worship God. But the legalistic Pharisees had changed the rules, so you can't do this terrible work of healing somebody. That's why Jesus asked them those tough questions. Do you want to do good or evil? Do you want to save the soul, the suke, or do you want to kill it? And they wouldn't answer because they had their minds made up. Their hearts were so hard and so blocked to the truth. So Jesus says, stretch out your hand. He does it, and he's healed. It's restored to proper functioning. It works. And everybody praised him, and they all celebrated and were excited. Shouldn't that be the case? Are you Pharisees able to heal? Could you guys heal anybody? Even if you touched him, even if you did whatever you thought. Where was your power to do this? Hello? They want to kill him for speaking life to that guy and for bringing healing to the guy so he can work again and earn an income and feed himself and take care of his family, or at least provide for himself without having to be a beggar. He could work. He could have this own internal sense of value and restoration now that Jesus acknowledged him and healed him just by speaking. Wouldn't that be the proper response? To celebrate good? To celebrate the miraculous? Verse 6, the Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians, their common political religious enemy, who they now joined up with, saying, hey, we need you guys to help us because we want to bring a charge against Jesus and we want to destroy him because he spoke life and healed on the Sabbath, that day of rest where we're supposed to worship God. He did something. He's awful. He's a lawbreaker. He needs to be destroyed and annihilated from eternity. Whoa. That's not a very healthy reaction to what Jesus did, to his love and his amazing grace. But Jesus was grieved at the hardness of their heart and their lack of understanding. And he brings life to this man. He does good. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Is it good? Is it better on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil? Our knowledge of good and evil is messed up. Jesus comes in and he brings it. He restores life. He restores function and health and the ability to work so that this man can now worship God whole physically. And then can you imagine what this did to the guy's soul? His suke, his spirit. What happened internally to this guy that Jesus loved him enough to heal him in a dangerous situation to himself? let's seek to understand the truth of who God is, that he is good, that he is not a rule maker, that he's a relationship maker, that he's a provider of restoration and spiritual and physical health to transform our souls so that we are people who love others and don't get distracted by wanting to maintain political or economic power or religious power, but we pursue the goodness of God, and that is what the kingdom is all about. God is love and wants to change us so that we are like him, be like Jesus.